Hello, today I'm here to talk about the full moon in Pisces, which is happening at 17 degrees and 40 minutes of Pisces. And the moon is, of course, at a full moon. The moon is often opposite the sun, and the sun at the moment is sitting in Virgo down here at 41 at 17 degrees of Virgo. So this chart is obviously for Australia. The houses will be different depending on where you are in the world. And the moon is also conjunct, sitting here right next door to its actual ruler, which is Neptune. So this is a very, very strong Piscean energy. So one of the things I think that that will be very powerful for any of you listening is that wherever 17 degrees and 41 minutes of Pisces falls in your chart, something is going to be coming to fruition, because often at a full moon, it's a time when we review and things come together. New moons are when we start to plant seeds and do those things, but a full moon is when things are starting to come together. We're starting to see the results of what we've done. And sometimes things are also coming to some sort of closure, because we were reviewing at this time and actually looking at what did we plant, did it grow, and do we want to continue putting energy into whatever that is. So it's a very important time. So Pisces is about divine love, and it's the highest expression of love. Unlike Virgo, which is its opposite, which is also a love, but Virgo is very much a practical sign, and it's about service, and it's about being very practical in the way you love and doing things for people, in both, looking after health and work. Whereas Pisces is that higher love, and it's that higher expression of love and that higher expression of creativity too, and imagination and vision and dreams. It's very romantic, it's very creative, and it's also very much about listening to the soul, because Pisces is very spiritual, and Neptune is a very spiritual planet too. So it's very much about listening to what it's saying to you. It can be very creative. Sometimes also, I suppose, some of the things we need to be careful about with Pisces is that we can sometimes go a little bit off with the fairies, because it can lead us into alternative states. It can also be about drug use and addictions and other things at a negative level. But on a positive level, we can actually, if we can use that energy to actually meditate and look at what we're wanting to build and create and dream, and what vision we have for our world. And that's a very, very important part of what's going on at this particular point in time. So it's also linked to our dreams. So we could be having a lot of stuff coming through in our dreams. And because Pisces is a water sign and Neptune is a watery planet, water could also be important. I don't know about you, but for me, swimming is very important. Being in the water, be beside the water, that's very, very important. And also a great time to spend some time, maybe even by a river or a lake or the ocean, just really reflecting and trying to vision what you want to do next. And as I said, the compassion and understanding of the Pisces moon combines with the service and strength of Virgo's sun. So Pisces will be slow, it'll be a steady process of transformation. Emotionally, something could come to the fore, or you could actually find something out that you've not been aware of. You may also want to, because there's a lot of compassion, you might want to show love and expression to other people. And also it would be important at this time to really look at what you're doing creatively and spiritually as well, wherever you are. So because at every full moon, we look at the energy of the sun, because this is also our focus. So with Virgo, what Virgo is very much about accomplishing and getting things organized, and also healing. So our energy is speaking to us and also talking to us about maybe what we need to heal in our bodies, because that's actually really important in our daily routines and our habits. And Virgo likes to look for new ways to solve things and improve our lives and change up our routines. And this can be tried in a new, different way. Virgo is very much a hard worker and a responsible person. Very much Virgo is like very detail, analytical oriented. And there's sometimes a lot of being required of us stepping away from that energy and that mental sort of space and going more into your intuition, etc. Now, Pisces is ruled by Neptune. As you can see, the moon is approaching Neptune, coming very close. Here's the moon. It's coming straight up to Neptune right over here. And so Neptune in Pisces is where we learn to surrender. It's not about being overly focused on the details, which is very Virgo-like energy, and how we do things, what we do, but it's about much more broad issues than that. Virgo brings in how we want to create something and how it shows up for us in our daily lives. But this strong Pisces energy wants us to detach from the mental pressure, wants us to step away from feeling like we have to figure it all out and know the answers in this moment. This is a surrendering energy. It's stepping away, stepping back. And you could also feel like this could be a time when you just want to get a break, actually, and more time to have a sense of, that you don't need to overthink or overdo things, but you just need to let things flow, which is really important. And actually follow very much what your intuition is saying right now. Pisces is very sensitive and very receptive, and so you could feel fairly sensitive at this particular time. You could also feel like, and certainly I do, that you're getting a lot more downloads as well, messages coming through, and sometimes coming through in your dream state or your meditations, etc. as well. And perhaps you're getting more clarity about an answer or solution coming through to you, because Neptune's about your higher self. So we're reminded to connect with our higher self, even as you go to get things done in a day. And there's information to connect with here. There you could also be feeling things much more intensely with the moon being so close to Neptune, and our intuition, our psychic abilities, and our spiritual aspects could be coming through really, really strongly as well. As I've said, Virgo and Pisces are both signs of service, and we may want to be of service to other people. Obviously, Pisces energy is of service at a much broader level. It's a universal service, whereas Virgo tends to be about the practical aspects of actually serving other people. And even if we're meditating or praying, we could actually send that out to the rest of the world or areas where there are problems or difficulties as a form of service to other people. And this would be a really positive time to do that. Now, the ruler of Virgo is Mercury, is in Libra, which is opposite Jupiter in Aries. So Libra is a sign of peace and harmony, and opposite Jupiter in Aries, these energies, there's lots of opposition energies here. And at this full moon, you will have, and you'll be looking at how you can balance these different sorts of energies as well. Jupiter and Aries wants us to expand and grow ourselves, which is important. That your aspirations, particularly our aspirations and things that we're wanting to achieve in your career, or your work, or your relationships. And these are all important questions to ask. So this is a time of development, self-development, and growing into more positive aspects of yourself. Mercury in Libra is reminding us about how we can be messengers of peace, because Libra is very much about peace, balance, harmony. It's about relationships. So, and at this time, there's a lot of turmoil. So maybe, we need to look at how we can be an example of our peacefulness. And that starts with peacefulness within ourselves. Because if we find inner peace, then finding external peace is much, much easier for us. And Pisces is very much about that internal, quiet, meditative space within us as well. Mercury in Libra wants to be more intentional, because we want to be more intentional about what we say, how we share. It's retrograde, so we need to be careful, because sometimes what we're communicating doesn't always come across the way we wanted to communicate it. So we need to be fairly clear that the message we're wanting to give out has been thought out and considered before we just spout it out to everybody, because otherwise it could well come out sounding not quite the way we want it to say. Now, Jupiter is at 5 degrees of Aries, so this is the energy that's keeping you in contact with what's true for you now, and it's an energy of understanding what you need and not to people please. Because one of the things about Aries is that Aries doesn't people please. Aries is definitely the leader, and it doesn't people please at all. So, and also you need to make sure that what you're communicating and sharing, and what you're doing could be going through some sort of reprogramming as well. And so Mercury will re-enter Virgo. It goes back to 24 degrees of Virgo and then stations direct. The retrograde begins September 9th, which was actually yesterday, and goes until October 2nd. And it's part of this overall energy signature of September, where we need to just slow down and catch up with ourselves. Because October we have a lunar eclipse and then solar eclipse coming up in November. So we've got some big things coming up towards the end of this year. The Sun in Virgo is trining Uranus in Taurus, which is also conjunct the North Node. And this is a wonderful time for developing regularity in something that's important to you. So Virgo is about putting that energy of regularity and disciplining yourself with time. So if there could be something that could be really productive, you could have some quick positive results because there's this because of this positive aspect. Uranus tends to speed things up. New ideas, new habits that you want to incorporate. So if you can radiate cosmic love set as an intention, then you're going to be able to get the most of yourself as well. And Uranus is going to bring you something here that is your way forward that you didn't consider before, because Uranus is an awakener, and it gives you a bit of a shock when it comes along. So there were things that were broken down that didn't come through, that may have even collapsed, and weren't right. And as the energy created, and obviously creates some disruption because Uranus tends to do that, something new comes through. So the trick is in this particular full moon is to really surrender into spirit and your own intuition and your own guidance, and to figure out what is that new that's coming through for you. And spirit is starting to put the lights on to see how you can actually move yourself forward. But at the same time, you also need to be able to listen and reflect and really understand what that's going to be and how that's going to work as well. So we have a supportive development because we have Mars here. It's activating the North Node and Uranus. So there's a powerful activation that maybe blew things apart or broke things up, because Mars likes to do that. And so it changes your expectations, change patterns, sets you off in a new direction, and maybe helps you make big life changes as well. So the Pisces Full Moon is providing reflection and an opportunity to integrate what you have. And I also believe this energy is beautifully supporting the moon and the sun, where we're seeing some new possibilities, new directions, some new things coming up, and helping us to sink into our intuition and spiritual selves with our body and mind and our intuition and our soul, and figure out where we're going next, but get grounded in that as well and get clearer about where we need to be. And maybe also see where we've made transitions and changes and what we need to do differently next. So big realizations could come at this particular time, especially related to the house where the full moon is, because the house will be the environment as well, and it'll be different for each of you. And also one of the things that you might need to be asking yourself as well at this time, because Pisces can be very much a bit self-sacrificing. So asking yourself, what am I sacrificing and why am I doing this, would be really important questions. And why, making sure these things don't drain you as well, energetically. And then there's this connection with the Uranus and the North Node, which can bring in an unexpected aha moment, which allows you to see, where am I going next? What am I going to do next? So we have several planets in mutable signs: Sun, Moon, Venus, Neptune. So how can you be more flexible in changing situations, which isn't always easy, but we are creatures of habit. But we can also, if we can be more flexible in what we're doing and how we respond to things, then there could be very much powerful things coming in for us too, and we tap into more of our power at this time. There are some wonderful dwarf planets as well coming in, which are very, very important, and they're forming some aspects. And this one here, which is up here at 19 degrees of Pisces, and I'm going to try and pronounce this, and I probably won't get it right, but it's Heron Hirawaka, and it's at 19 degrees of Pisces, and it's actually sitting, it's sitting very, very close to that new moon, and that's why I'm putting it in as something significant. And it's also sitting very close, obviously, to Neptune, which is very powerful. And it's a myth. And there are a lot of myths about these dwarf planets, but this was an Iroquois farmer god, and basically is very concerned about providing seeds for the future for people, for food supplies, and providing seeds for the future. These creator gods don't just operate on the 3D, but they also create in helping us move into a different place of consciousness. So one of the things about this particular aspect here, sitting up here, given that it's so close to the full moon, is that we might be finding ways to magically create seeds for the future and abundance. That might sound a bit up in the air, but it's actually happening, and it's happening around there with different groups, and there's a shift in consciousness and looking to find like-minded people, our soul families as well. So there's a lot of creativity and abundance coming around. And it's also, Terra and Harawaka is also linked in myth to understanding our cosmic origins. And so it helps us connect to source, and it alleviates the issue, which is running more at the 3D in relation to food shortage and limitation. So there's a very powerful aspect here as well. Saturn is squaring the nodal axis. You see here, Saturn is sitting. Saturn is sitting here, and basically it's so Saturn in Aquarius is about finding new connections, and squaring the nodes is very much about building new social networks for the long term. So that's very powerful at this particular point in time. And given that we've Mercury in Libra opposing Jupiter in Aries, because there's a real pioneering quality here, but Jupiter is also conjunct Celestia, which is one of the dwarf planets, and Celestia is very much here. It is. There's no symbol, but it's here. Celestia is here. So basically, she's beautiful mermaid energy. She's the wife of Neptune. She's a mermaid. She's linked to the iridescent sunlight and that photonic energy and light coming down as well. And she's got that brilliant white light, and she's liquid light. And she's also linked to, obviously, to Neptune. And she brings in that liquid light, which is about creating our future. In fact, they did a session, there's a YouTube session if you want to look back on Celestia and who she is and what she is. But she's beautiful energy, and that is opposing Mercury and the Jupiter opposition. So it's about big ideas for the future, big visions for the future. Now about what we've always, and how we're going to create that with light, and how we've been unaware of that. But it's something we're aware of, which is coming much more to the fore of these days. And Celestia at its is also linked to the sacred geometry, and again healing using love, because love is the highest vibration. As we move forwards, we're going to move way beyond the current health systems. We're going to be using energy medicine, light, sound, all those sorts of things. Certainly, I have experience with that, and I know many people who do too. And the other thing is, we also, with the sun, we have down here, we have at 14 degrees, the sun is at 17 degrees of Virgo, we have another dwarf planet called Orcus. So Orcus has a very slow orbit, as do a lot of these dwarf planets, about 300 years, which is a long time. So when they come into conjunction with something, because they have such a long cycle, 300 years, it's usually a bit of a big deal. So Orcus is very much, he was someone who punished the oath breakers, who violated sacred laws, and he shows up and shows us where there's any lack of integrity, with ourselves and people around us and what's going on, which is really, really important. But at the same time, he does look now forward to creating with love, and he's very much about creating love, about being in that integrity, being in that space of love and healing and acceptance of others, and that's very, very powerful as we move forward. And finally, Jupiter, we have Saturn, we have Uranus, Neptune, all these outer planets also going retrograde. So this is a big time of review. This is a time to go back over things, look back over what I've been doing for the last 6 months or so, 7 months, and with this new information that's coming in, looking at what are we doing, what do we think we're going to do, and to also choose from a place of love. Also understand that basically those dreams, those visions, that creative inspiration comes through us, needs to be expressed in some sort of way, and allowing us to actually do so in a way that brings forth new light, new healing, and a new vision for all those people around us. And that's a very powerful place for us to be. So that's the full moon in Pisces. So I hope you enjoy your day. Sending you lots of love, blessings, and light. Bye for now.